Wyoming Frontier, 1888. A lonely cabin, a cold wind, and a little girl hiding under a table while killers searched for her. She stayed silent as her whole world collapsed around her, and what happened next changed her life forever. Watch till the end, partner. This story will break your heart and mend it again. Tell us where you're watching from and join our Sleep West family. Now, let's dive into the story.
The air inside the small, dilapidated cabin hung heavy, thick with the smell of dry sagebrush and damp, stale earth. Outside, the November wind of 1888 whistled a sharp, biting tune across the prairie. 10-year-old Lucy lay coiled beneath the rough-hewn pine table, her small body an anchor against the tremor running through the floorboards. Her heart didn't just beat. It was a furious drummer, rattling against her ribs, demanding to be heard. But Lucy was silent. Her mother's final desperate whisper was a shield of ice around her fear. "Don't let your presence show them, Luce. Not a sound, no matter what." The voices were close now, thick and cruel like spoiled milk. Davy, he'd been here twice before, always with threats, always riding away empty-handed. But this time, there were no warnings. Only the sound of the door being kicked in, and the sickening thud that followed. Pa said he'd clear the debt this time. A voice, raspy as old leather, sneered. It was Davy. Pa lied. Another man, Silas, chuckled. Lucy pressed her face into the cold, frozen dirt. She could see their boots, dusty, cracked leather, the spurs jangling like nervous bells. A boot shuffled, stopping inches from her head. She squeezed her eyes shut, imagining herself as a knot in the wood, a shadow, nothing. Then came the search. They tore apart her life piece by piece, ripping mattresses, overturning the meager collection of pots, smashing the framed picture of her mother with flowers in her hair. "Look sharp, boys. Pa probably stashed something we can fence. Land deeds, a pistol, maybe even some silver," Davy barked. "Or maybe," Silas mused, his voice drifting closer, "a small frightened thing we can sell down in Texas. That'd fetch a good price." Lucy's breath hitched. She tasted iron. She clamped her hand over her mouth, biting down hard on her own knuckles. 4 endless hours passed in the dark. The sun climbed, but offered little heat. The cabin was chilly and damp. The men's voices faded. Their steps retreated. Finally, nothing. The only sound was the incessant wind, and the faint, dull roar in her ears. She waited until the hoofbeats, faint at first, dissolved entirely into the prairie silence. She crawled out, dizzy. The dust settled on a fresh, wet horror. Her parents lay still, silent, their faces turned toward the dirt floor. There was no blood, only the stark, undeniable stillness of death. Lucy didn't cry. The tears were frozen solid inside her. A man on the horse, Lucy didn't dare stay. This cabin, her home, was now a tomb. She ran. She ran across the main road, and down the muddy, frozen streets, her thin shoes offering no protection from the numbingly cold ground. She ran until her lungs burned, and the world blurred into shades of brown and yellow. She stumbled around the corner of the general store, collapsing against a water trough, gulping for air. "Well, looky here. What have we found, boys?" The voice was rough, familiar. Silas. Lucy froze, every muscle in her body locking up like rusted iron. She didn't have to turn around. The paralyzing chill was enough. She was hauled roughly to her feet. Silas's grip was like a vice. He grinned, revealing gaps in his teeth. "You cost us an hour of searchin', little mouse, but you'll make up for it. Heard a girl your age goes for a pretty penny on the trade road." Tears, finally, hot and futile, streamed down her cheeks. "Please," she choked out, her voice a reedy whisper. "Please let me go. Don't sell me." Silas and the other man laughed, a cruel, dry sound. "You got no choice, kid. You're property now." Just then, a voice, hard and authoritative, sliced through the air like a bullwhip. "Leave the girl." Silas and his companion spun around. Blocking the end of the street was a lone figure on a tall, dark horse. He was lean, dressed in a heavy oilskin duster coat pulled tight against the chill, the star on his chest glinting faintly in the late afternoon sun. He held the reins loosely, but his eyes were fixed and cold. "Who in the blazes are you to give us orders?" Davy's man blustered, stepping forward. The man shifted slightly in the saddle. "I am Sheriff Pat Garrett, and that's enough of an order for any law-abiding man." Davy's men visibly swallowed. Pat Garrett. Even out here in the wilds of Wyoming, the name carried weight. Silas forced a smile, sickly sweet. "Sheriff, we were just talking about how we could get the child settled." She looked lost. She looked terrified. Pat retorted, his voice unwavering. "And she'll be settled with me. Unhand her, or draw." Silas dropped Lucy's arm as if it were a hot coal. He and the other man exchanged a swift, panicked look, then scrambled onto their horses, spurring them into a panicked retreat. They vanished around the corner in a cloud of frozen mud. Pat dismounted slowly, letting his gaze follow the fleeing men for a moment before turning to Lucy. He knelt, a huge, towering presence suddenly brought down to her level. "Don't panic, child. You're safe now." Lucy was still shaking, her small frame rigid with shock. "They killed them, Davy and his men. They killed them. They killed May and Pa because of the money." The words were barely audible, shattered pieces of sound. Sheriff Garrett's hardened expression softened, giving way to a raw, deep pity. He gently lifted her and placed her on the saddle, securing her in front of him. "We'll get you warm, Luce, and then we'll talk about justice." Watchthe, the scent of cinnamon. The bakery was a tiny pocket of insulating warmth and sweetness in a harsh world. It smelled of cinnamon, yeast, and brown sugar, a scent that seemed alien to the death and cold clinging to Lucy. Pat carried her inside. The woman who met them was robust, apron-clad, with kind eyes and flour dusting her cheeks. This was Martha. "Pat, what in heaven's name?" Martha started, her voice a comforting mezzo. "Martha, this is Lucy. She's seen things no child should. Her parents, they were murdered just outside of town." "Davy and his men," Pat said quietly. "I need you to take her for a couple of days, just until I can sort things out and talk to the department." Martha didn't hesitate. She came toward Lucy, her skirt brushing the floor, and knelt, ignoring the streaks of dirt and tear stains on the girl's face. "Well, hello, sweet pea. My name is Martha." She held out a soft, flour-dusted hand. "What's yours?" "Lucy." "Lucy, that's a beautiful name. Why are you crying, my dear?" The question, so gently posed, broke the dam. Lucy threw herself into Martha's embrace, hugging her tight, sobbing years of stored-up terror and grief. "They killed them. They killed Ma and Pa because of the money, and they wanted to sell me." Martha held her, rocking gently, her large hands rubbing comforting circles on Lucy's back. "Oh, my poor darling, my poor brave girl. It's all right now. It's all right." Over Lucy's head, Martha looked at Pat, her eyes resolute. "I'll help her, Pat." "Of course I will." Pat nodded, gratitude plain on his grim face. He was a man of the law, accustomed to violence, but this was different. This was a child broken by greed. "You'll be safe here, Lucy. They won't come near this bakery. But Martha, lock the doors, bolt the windows, and keep your eye on the prairie. Do not open up for anyone but me. I'll be back in 2 days." "Will they come for me?" Lucy asked, pulling back, her eyes wide with lingering fear as she watched the sheriff cinch up his saddle. "They're very dangerous." "Not here, Luce," Pat assured her, his hand resting briefly on her shoulder. "You are safe as a church mouse in a pantry. I swear it." Then, Pat Garrett rode out, swallowed quickly by the unrelenting Wyoming dust. The weight of justice. 2 days later, Pat returned, looking exhausted but focused. He looked older than Lucy remembered, the lines around his eyes etched deeper. "The first bit of news," Pat said, stepping inside and removing his hat. "Davy and his men were caught this morning, 50 miles south. They're secured for now, A small hesitant sigh of relief escaped Lucy's lips. It was a momentary victory, quickly subsumed by the crushing weight of her sorrow. Pat and Martha sat on either side of her, a bulwark of quiet strength. "I need you to tell me everything now, Lucy," Pat requested gently. "From the start. Why they killed your folks. The whole of it." Lucy leaned into Martha's side, the scent of cinnamon, a strange comfort as she spoke in halting, broken whispers. "My father, he took money from Davy. A lot, I think. He was supposed to pay it back. He tried. But the third time they came, they didn't want the money. They just wanted that." The end. Ma heard the horses. She shoved me under the table, so fast, and she told me to stay silent. I hid every time they came, but this time, her voice cracked, dissolving into helpless tears. Martha hugged her tighter, her own eyes glistening. "They will not be spared, Lucy," Pat said, his voice flat with official certainty. "They killed an innocent couple in cold blood. The law will see to them." "But they were hunting for me when you found me," Lucy whimpered. "They're still out there. They said they'd sell me." "They are locked up," Pat insisted firmly. "I'll come back again after I've seen the judge. You stay put, and you stay safe." He placed his hat back on his head, and was gone. 3 more days passed. Lucy, though still desperately sad, started to help Martha with the simpler tasks, sifting flour, rolling out pie crusts, and watching the miracle of the bread rising. The work was therapeutic, a steady rhythm that helped keep the frantic fear at bay. When Pat returned this time, his news was conclusive. Life imprisonment. They won't see daylight again. "It's done, Lucy." Both Martha and Lucy exhaled a breath they didn't know they'd been holding. Later, Pat spoke to Martha alone, in hushed tones near the back door. "The department is processing the paperwork. Standard procedure is to send her to the orphanage in Cheyenne." Martha's head snapped up, her eyes blazing with fierce protectiveness. "No way, Pat Garrett. Absolutely not. I'm keeping her. She's too broken, too vulnerable, too much in pain to be tossed into that system. I'll raise her myself. She belongs here now." A slow, genuine smile spread across Pat's face. "I hoped you'd say that, Martha. I truly did. She's clinging to you. I'll talk to the department. I'll make sure it gets done right." Pat then turned to Lucy, who was carefully wiping down the countertop. "Lucy, Martha and I had a talk. She wants you to stay here, with her. The other option is the orphanage. Are you willing to stay with Martha?" Lucy looked up, her gaze darting to Martha's face, searching for any hint of obligation. "If she is truly willing to keep me, I don't want to be a burden on her." Martha rushed to her side, rubbing the dust and flour from Lucy's small hands. "A burden never, baby. I'm pleased to have you. I'm lonely for company. Are you willing to stay with me and help me run my bakery? We could be a team." Lucy's eyes widened, transforming her face from sorrowful to ecstatic in an instant. "In your bakery? Oh, Aunt Martha, I would love to help you. I promise I'll work hard." The word aunt was a sweet, unexpected reward for Martha, an affirmation that a deep, new bond was forged. From that day forward, Lucy was Martha's shadow, a tireless, focused helper who poured her energy into the dough and the warmth of the oven. Pat visited often, his presence a quiet reassurance that the dangerous world was being kept at bay. One sharp, clear afternoon, the 3 of them, Pat, Martha, and Lucy, were enjoying molasses cookies and hot coffee in the small, cozy parlor behind the bakery. The windows were firmly latched, but the air felt crisp, carrying the promise of an early snow. They were talking about getting Lucy a small kitten. A sudden, urgent shout from the street shattered the domestic peace. An officer, covered in sweat and dust, burst through the bakery door. "Sheriff Garrett, we have a situation. Davy ran, killed 3 of our men getting out of the transport. He's headed west, maybe toward the mountains, maybe back here, we don't know." The air turned instantly cold. Lucy's cup clattered to the floor, forgotten. Pat was on his feet in a flash, the amiable father figure replaced by the relentless lawman. "Martha, listen to me closely. This is serious. Bolt every door, bar every window, the house and the bakery. Do not open them for anyone, not until I come back. Not for food, not for water." He turned to the officer. "You are staying here. You will protect them from inside. Do not leave their side. He snatched his rifle from the coat rack, strapped on his belt, and was outside before the officer could finish his nod. He swung onto his horse, the movement economical and fast. "Pat, be safe," Martha called, her voice tight with fear. He didn't look back. He just gave a fierce cry and rode hard, a man chasing a shadow, until he was nothing but a speck of dust against the vast, terrifying horizon. For 3 agonizing days, the 3 of them were trapped. The officer, a young man named Jim, stood guard, his rifle never far from his hand. Martha tried to maintain a facade of calm, kneading dough with unnecessary violence, humming old hymns. Lucy watched her, and though Martha kept saying, "I'm not afraid, dear, not a bit," Lucy could see the fear in the tight set of her jaw, and the way she jumped at every gust of wind. Lucy herself was terrified. The memory of Davy's face, harsh and devoid of humanity, was a constant sharp image behind her eyelids. On the 3rd day, Jim, the officer, pointed toward the prairie. "Someone's coming." They all froze, their breaths shallow. The figure was on a horse, riding fast, but not panicked. "It's him," Jim whispered, lowering his rifle just a fraction. "It's the sheriff." The relief that swept over Martha was so profound it almost buckled her knees. She rushed to the door, tearing back the bolts. "Pat! Pat!" The sheriff rode up, tired, dusted, but alive. Martha opened the door, and Lucy rushed out, stopping right beside the sheriff's leg. "What happened? Is he caught?" she whispered, her eyes wide, searching his face. Pat dismounted, his movements heavy with exhaustion. He knelt on one knee before Martha and Lucy, taking off his hat and looking directly into Lucy's anxious eyes. "Luce, he is quiet now, quiet forever." Pat's voice was low and gravely. "We encountered him just this morning, trying to double back to the settlements. After he killed 3 good officers, the whole department took the necessary step. He won't ever hurt anyone again. He will never come back." A wave of absolute life-changing relief washed over the 3 of them. Jim lowered his gun completely. Martha wrapped Pat in a fierce embrace, and Lucy, tears of true cleansing joy finally free, clung to his dusty coat. The shadow had passed. Yive, a family forged in fire. 2 days after the final decisive action, a heavy domestic calm settled over the bakery. Lucy was back to sorting dried apricots, and Martha was kneading a huge batch of sourdough. Pat came in, freshly shaven, and wearing clean clothes. He didn't look like a lawman. He looked like a man who finally found a place to rest. He walked up to Martha, who stopped her work, her hands covered in flour. Pat reached into his clean coat pocket and pulled out a small, simple silver ring. It was not ornate, but sturdy and true. "Martha," he began, his voice surprisingly shaky. He cleared his throat. "I'm tired of riding alone. You're the kindest, toughest, best thing I've seen on this plain. Will you marry me and help me finally find a home?" Tears welled in Martha's eyes, mixing with the flour dust on her cheeks. "Yes, Pat. Yes, I will. I'd be honored to marry a man who keeps the wolves from the door and a broken child safe. I love you." A brief, flour-dusted connection that was pure promise. Then they both turned to Lucy. They knelt together, a large, strong man and a kind, strong woman, surrounding the small girl. "Lucy," Pat said, taking her hands in his, "Aunt Martha and I are going to be married. We want a family, and you are already the best part of our lives. Will you be our daughter, Lucy? Will you stay with us and let us keep you safe forever?" Lucy looked from Pat's earnest face to Martha's tear-streaked, joyful one. The coldness that had settled in her chest beneath the table was finally melting away, replaced by an overwhelming warmth. She couldn't speak. She just nodded, sobbing, and threw her arms around both of them. Her small world, so recently shattered, finally put back together in the warm, cinnamon-scented heart of a Wyoming bakery. This was her story now. The ballad of dust, grit, and the enduring sweetness of dough.